Yeah, the easiest thing to explain is in our first 5 years, we talked about it in the Series B, press release. We scaled from non-existence to over $100 million in revenue, and we did our Series B at about a $250 million, post-money valuation.
All right, so we're back, Cutler Cast. It's Olympia weekend, and we have the CEO in the house, Great Connolly. Thank you for coming in, man. Trifecta. If you guys haven't seen me post Trifecta or even heard about Trifecta, you must be living under a rock.
Yeah, at this point, we're pretty much everywhere.
How many years now?
7 years.
7 years.
Yeah. So we're becoming the old guard company.
It goes by so fast, man. Like, I mean, I've been involved for many, many years, but, you co-founded this company. It's family-oriented company. You had a vision. You had a lot of business endeavors, but this seems to be the baby that you kind of, you have so much pride for, because we've had many conversations about it. Tell me a little bit about your journey of, starting Trifecta, why you started it, how you started it, and do you remember actually the date you started it?
Yeah, I mean, the date was, we officially launched the website was June 18th, 2015, but we had obviously been working on it for, more than 6 months before that. But, yeah, technically this is my 5th business, so I was mostly in software before this, trying to make money, raise capital, et cetera, as quickly as possible. Trifecta was my passion business. It was the company that was focused on solving a major problem, which for me, it was something I was super passionate about, which is the chronic disease crisis, the obesity epidemic, whatever we want to call it. And that was something that was personally important to me because my wife's a physician. She sees people, end of the road with chronic disease, which you guys are on the opposite end of the spectrum, like the super fitness side of things, and we really try and work with athletes to inspire America, to get back into shape. So,
I mean, you mentioned 5 businesses. I'm looking at you. You're not an older guy, so the entrepreneurship is like, what's this?
Yeah, I started first one when I was 18. First went to college. Okay. It was around when the internet was coming out, so I'm about 40 now. And
still young.
Yeah, and it was going around telling business owners, hey, forget about the yellow pages. This new thing, the internet's going to be huge. And yeah, that just turned from one business into another. Ended up in the San Francisco Bay Area. In the software world, that's where tech was hot, et cetera. And ultimately, got into e-commerce, which is what we all here respectively do. So, so yeah, it's been a huge transition. But Trifecta, like you said, is my baby.
Well, how'd you come up with like Trifecta? I mean, we know the meaning of Trifecta, but how did you, number one, get Trifecta? Because it's really like it's a common term, right?
Yep.
So, talk about like what Trifecta means as far as the meal company.
Yeah, there are a lot of threes when it comes to food. There's, protein, fat, carbs. I mean, technically there's a 4th macro, which is alcohol, but most people know protein, fat, carbs.
That's it. That's all I know. And I hate the word macros, by the way, because it was always like, what do you eat? And I always broke down protein, mostly protein and carbs, to be honest, because as a bodybuilder, we don't really track fats because we try to eat minimal fats. But now with today's research, it shows how important some of these improper fats are, right? So, so those are 3 components, and that's how you kind of...
Yeah, that was a big part of it. There's a lot of other elements to getting into phenomenal shape, like you're in, and really the big one was, mind, body, and social. Social being the social circle, people you surround yourself with, the mats, you guys are always in the gym, hanging out with people. If I looked at Jay's Instagram, I would bet it would be filled with like fitness people, nutrition, all of that type of stuff, like on what you actually follow. So changing your community and your ecosystem around what you're really focused on, we think is critical. Your mindset, which you've talked about quite a bit, throughout the years, even in the Olympia video we're about to drop, You talk a lot about mindset, and then, you know, the physical element of it. You got to be training, you got to be, you know, active, getting out and walking in the morning, a lot of the stuff that you do. So I'd love to take credit for like coming up with the Trifecta brand, but we used a company called McLean Design. They came up with Monster Energy, you know, a bunch of the brands you guys would be familiar with. And we told them really what we wanted out of the brand, and they presented us a bunch of brands, and Trifecta was one of them. And we were blown away. We were like, this is the one for sure, and we ran with it.
Yeah, I mean, so the company's based in Northern California.
Yep.
And when I first like met you, obviously you were deep involved in MMA, so some sort of athletics. You have a lot of background in there. Obviously, you worked with UFC for a while. Came on board. Now you've been title sponsor for the Olympia for, is this the fourth?
2019.
Yeah, this is the fourth
year. Fourth year, yep. Yeah. And, you know, everyone in our industry kind of uses meal prep now. I came from an era where there was no such thing. You know, I was going to Costco, I was buying the food, and then we saw the pandemic kind of change the game a little bit, right, where, like, stores were closed.
Yep. People
weren't leaving the house. You know, what did that do during that time for Trifecta? I mean, how important was that for people?
Yeah, I mean, the pandemic was huge. I'm from, you know, you guys are only a few years older than me, so I remember years and years and years of doing meal prep myself. But ultimately, that was like chicken and broccoli or chicken and rice. You know, it was super basic stuff. You're cooking it on, you know, meal prep Sunday, going to Costco, etc. And it sucked. It was part of the reason why we wanted to develop Trifecta, because most of America wasn't going to have the mental fortitude to consistently do that. So we wanted to bring more options, more diversity to the food, you know, be able to target vegans and vegetarians, you know, people across the spectrum. So I think that was a big part of it, is that I did experience meal prep for years. And yeah, I mean, we've partnered with a lot of sports at this point. We're now making a big push into the NFL. We're you know, finalizing a deal with Eric Armstead from the 49ers, who's going to push us into the Players Association, which is how we'll kind of backdoor into the NFL. You know, we run multiple NBA team programs. We built the UFC's, you know, fight prep program for them before we turned it over to the UFC. I had chefs traveling all over the world. I mean, they were on Fight Island. I think the same time you guys were on Fight Island for Conor McGregor.
Yeah, he was there, actually. Yeah. We were talking to the
we
chef,
saw Mark when we ran into him. We were sitting in the crowd, and people are jumping over because they have no ushers there. It's a free-for-all. And I got a message from somebody to look over, and one of the royal family had one of their security people. So we walked over, and as they walked us back, Mario came over, and he was right there before we went up in. So this is kind of, it's always a good feeling when you run into someone you know overseas.
Yeah, I know, especially on Fight Island. So yeah, I mean, we had chefs flying over all over the country, and you know, that was an incredible program that we built. We fundamentally changed the UFC's weight cut process. We do other sports as well, like CrossFit. You know, we're a major partner of theirs now, bigger than we ever have been this year. We've done PGA Tour, you know, feeding all the players through the PGA Tour. So it doesn't really matter what sport you're in. Meal prep is critical. You know, bodybuilding happens to be the most critical when it comes to diet, because, you know, diet is such a massive part of bodybuilding in general.
Bodybuilding is a general term, though, because a lot of our figurehead people are female. I mean, we've been talking about organic and how quality means so much. And we've been back and forth, and behind the scenes, there's so much going on with the quality, especially the proteins. And, you know, people go like, there's these vegan and the paleos and everything else, which I know nothing about. Okay, by the way, I'm trying to, you know, I'm a supplement owner, and I have obviously vegan protein, and you know, it tastes great, but I'm still like a whey protein isolate type guy. Talk a little bit about the obstacle you faced with trying to get quality over the quantity, because listen, you're shipping out how many meals?
We'll ship, you know, usually average month we're shipping over 500,000 meals. Yeah.
And that's, I mean, quality control and shipping, but the quality is the main thing we've been kind of going back and forth. So talk about like the research on trying to nail the perfect protein.
Yeah, so we experienced two big things in 2022. One, the suppliers we were working with to combat inflation started reducing the quality of their proteins, which of course pissed us off. Because
like how I don't understand. Like explain how
they do like there are tiers of every type of protein. Whether it's chicken, steak, salmon.
people don't know this stuff.
Yeah, people don't know it, but behind the scenes in the supply chain, there are different levels, and they would start using slightly lower quality chicken, and it would still be NEA, which is no antibiotics ever. It would still check all the boxes in terms of the certifications, but we'd get like, some of the overall chicken volume would be in chicken strips or something instead of chicken breasts, things like that. Salmon, it became more and more difficult to find, wild caught Alaskan salmon, Norwegian salmon, etc. So what we ended up doing in 2022 is we broke apart the supply chain so that we could control all the individual suppliers that we were sourcing proteins and the various other ingredients from. We also moved from having one giant kitchen in Los Angeles to now we've got 4 kitchens across the U.S., one in San Jose, one in Texas, and 2 in New Jersey, because even though we're a California company, 2/3 of our customers are Texas East. It's the East Coast.
It's the zones that's a tricky 100%. Part, right?
Yep, exactly. So I'm sure you guys experience some of this with supplements, but now we're making the food in the regions, where the huge population centers are, and that makes it a lot easier for us to deal with inflation from shipping, which allows us to source the higher quality protein. So one of our main protein suppliers now supplies like Ruth's Chris. They supply, some of the super premium proteins at Costco. I mean, they're the fucking, I don't know if you guys cuss on this podcast.
Of course we do, yeah.
What the hell do you think this is?
They're the fucking...
Look at my face.
They are the fucking best of the best, like the super premium. They do like bacon wraps, scallops, and all kinds of crazy stuff. I love the text
messages when you just hit me out of the blue at random times and you send me, look at this shit.
Oh, dude.
And he sends me these cuts of meats, and I'm like, okay, you at fucking like Morton's or Ruth Chris or where are you at with this? He's like, no, this is like what we're sending you right now, and get ready, it's coming tomorrow morning.
You know what's crazy? He doesn't ever send this to me.
He knows
the truth.
He knows
it's important.
He knows I'll post on my social media with 12 million people.
Yeah, my 400 people don't count.
Yeah, so the proteins, cost-wise, for a meal prep company at our scale, proteins are 80% of the overall cost. It's a huge percentage. So we were able to do a deal where we were actually getting much higher quality proteins from a few of these new protein suppliers, and it's actually less expensive than what we were paying for proteins before, because our buying volume now is so incredibly huge. So we're using that to be able to combat inflation, which, is, you guys obviously...
It's a battle, right?
Yeah, you guys obviously, are part of the Trifecta team, so we feed you for free, but for 99.9% of the people we're feeding are average Americans, and, they're buying the food, and... we can't have the food get too expensive. So
and it's subscription-based, so basically you sign up for these programs. What's the most people get on a weekly basis? How many meals? I know you have like different levels, but...
Yeah, on the high end, 21, 28 meals a week. That's somebody that's getting more meals. Obviously, if people are, them and their wife or something, they'll get, 40-plus meals a week. But at that point, people usually start ordering off of our meal prep line, which is largely what we send to... athletes, which is like just straight. Well, I mean, really across any sport, they usually want a la carte. They just want the straight protein.
You see me cooking my a la carte. So when he means a la carte, so everything comes packaged, whether it's like 2 pounds or some part.
It used to be 2, now it's more 1.
Yeah, we usually do everything in 1 pound.
Okay, so I just cut the stuff up and I flavor it the way I like, and obviously I weigh everything portionately still. I'm still one of these people that I still kind of cook. I have a rice cooker at home, so I cook my rice, even though that is available. What I love is, like, now we get the packages of white rice. I remember there was a time I actually couldn't get the white rice.
We only had brown rice for a long time.
And I remember, I said, hey, I want some white rice, and then it started coming. And
well, who was the big pusher was Dana Lynn Bailey. Dana Lynn was like, I want white rice, and we were like, fuck, okay, we got to add white rice to the menu. So we started immediately sourcing, see if we could find.
So how adaptive are you to your clientele? Because listen, we talk about a broad range of people, and not to be confused, like this isn't just a direct, like that's why I wanted to bring up the different outlets that you guys feed as far as athletics, because right now people are seeing Trifecta all over the media for the Olympia, and a lot of the athletes are using it. I mean, you shipped out a ton of packages here, a lot of sponsorships, but what would you say your demographic mainly is for Trifecta?
It's 25 to 50 age group wise.
That's a broad range.
It's a broad range, but we're really strong. We get people in their 60s and in their teens, but the vast majority, probably 70%, are 25 to 55. They tend to be, you know, high income earners. They're in the metro areas, so they're in, you know, if you look at a map of Manhattan, it's like covered in Trifecta customers. They tend to, you know, be in higher level jobs, et cetera, doctors, lawyers, CEOs, you know, et cetera. But we have a huge swath of, you know, really America at this point. I mean, we fed almost 400,000 people at this point. So it's such a huge amount of Americans that we get a little bit of everybody. We've got retirees. I've got one of our favorite customers, this guy, Trey Massey. He did his first bodybuilding contest at 61. And he won in his age class, and then he did a marathon, and and he was 350 pounds. Wow. So, you know, they look to the Jay Cutlers of the world and they go, I want to be like Jay. And they look at what you're eating, they look at how you're training, and they start adapting their lives to be like you guys. And they have, you know, transformational lives. This guy was 61 and his whole immediate family had passed away from obesity related diseases at that point, you know, strokes, etc. He had 2 brothers, a sister, and his parents, and they had all passed away by the time he was 60. So he was like, I need to make a huge change for my kids. And he dropped from 350 pounds to 177 pounds. So we have tens of thousands of those type of stories, and that's really the reason we do this. You know, I tell people I could already, you know, Trifecta is already big enough. I could go lay on an island and drink Mai Tais if I wanted to, but I don't. I want to make this into a multi-billion-dollar company that helps millions of fucking Americans.
See, what I want to bring up is, you know, I first came on with the brand in 2016, and when I first came out, I flew out to Sacramento, and it was a tiny little office. When we had our first meeting, there was no big office. We sat like this. Yeah. And the company has grown extremely fast. You know, I don't know if you've ever submitted stuff to Forbes to show compared to other companies.
We were top 100 on Inc. 500. Yeah.
So can you talk about maybe, and I don't know if you have these details, but what type of growth are we talking this brand has had from year to year to year, from the time it came on to current day?
Yeah, the easiest thing to explain is in our first 5 years, we talked about it in the Series B, you know, press release. We scaled from non-existence to over $100 million in revenue. And we did our Series B at about a $250 million, post-money valuation. It was a $20 million Series B. So you can read about that in like Yahoo Finance. That's like public knowledge at this point. So the fact that we were able to scale so quickly into the hundreds of millions, was incredible. It just showed that there's a huge demand for meal prep in the world, and we were like, you know, at this point, really the only player in the space that's bigger than us is HelloFresh. You know, they're the largest in the world, and they're doing about $8 billion a year.
So they're the largest for now.
They're worldwide. Yeah, they're all over the floor worldwide.
They're based out of Frankfurt. Yeah. So they're based out of Germany. They're in about 26 countries now. So we would like to go international.
That'd be awesome, man. Because you know how many people ask me, because I have such an international exposure on all my social media, and they say, why can't I get this? You know, even the Canada people, right? Which we don't look at Canada as like a foreign place, but it's just restrictions are just so tough, right? And the food, the problem is it's a time thing. Like it has X amount of time to transport before, you know, any mishap. And I'm going to ask you about a couple of those mishaps, because I'm sure you've had to deal, like, tell me the most catastrophic loss you guys have had shipping.
Oh, man. So when we went through this supply chain transition, which was at the end of September, I mean, you want a catastrophic loss. We had to transfer production of about 150,000 meals a week from one facility across 4 facilities. And I think we shipped maybe 50% of the orders that have been paid for that week. So we lost, you know, over $1 million just that week. And then the following week, we went up to like 70% of the orders. The week after that, it was like 85. Then it was mid 90s, and now we're back into the, you know, the high 90s again. So that was.
Did you sleep?
Brutal. No, I was fucking stupid. I mean, in like 3 weeks, I lost over $2 million. It was a fucking nightmare. Yeah. So.
Well, and also you're trying to comfort the customer and the transit, you know.
Yeah, 100%. I got Matt yelling at me because, you know, all these people.
And how many comps did you have to do after that?
Oh, tons. You know. So, and the problem is, if someone doesn't get a box shipped, it's like a straight refund, and it's not like we're selling, you know, Nikes or something. We can't just ship them the next week. Like the next week, they're already on their next week's order because it's a subscription. So that week is totally gone. So yeah, for us, that was a horrible period. You know, end of September, where, you know, we've almost completely pulled out of it at this point. But I still have a New Jersey facility that's waiting on 2 vacuum sealing machines, and once they have those, everything will be back in full vacuum seal. And by, you know, mid to early Q2 next year, we'll actually have fully biodegradable everything. Ice packs, insulation, trays, everything will be biodegradable.
And this is a big plus for your new customers, right? So when you're competing against, there's a million meal companies out there, right? People are getting meals shipped every week. The menus are different, okay?
Yep.
You talk about HelloFresh, like how broad is their menu comparable to Trifecta? Like how do you really reach out to that new customer and say Trifecta is it for you? I mean, you just talked about the packaging, and I know we're in a world of green environment, and I know in some of the new packaging, right, the biodegradable throwaway containers. I mean, what is the direction? How do you feed that customer, and like how do you overcome, you know, like making that choice for that customer?
Well, what people want is they want the feel of a plastic tray that's fully biodegradable. So they hate the fucking cardboard. I've gotten yelled at like 11,000 times in the last couple months because of those trays that we had to use temporarily. But ultimately, yeah, they want the best of both worlds. They want like an iPhone unboxing experience, which we're moving towards this year. But at the same time, they want it to be fully biodegradable materials. So that is the focus, and they want, we have the vacuum seal on it, which you guys have seen for years. It's called VSP, Vacuum Skin Pack, and those machines are $500,000 and, you know, the size of this fucking room we're in. Super expensive.
That shit don't pop open either.
It doesn't pop open.
It's like no broken
chainsaw.
Well, if you do it right, you
on
can
the
do
corner.
It,
Yes.
Yeah, you can do it. So
you just got to be smarter than the package. Yeah.
I'm just thinking of the times I can't fucking get in.
You know, and the funny thing is like for the longest time, like, dude, this packaging is just so. He's like, bro, you got to just look. There's a corner. There's a peel corner, and I'm like, oh, okay.
He would be like, I can't get in this thing, man, and just keep looking for a knife.
But I took the knife and I went around the edge.
Yeah, I still do that too, though.
Yeah.
I would still always cut it. It's just easier.
You know, because you're using the. I'm not a guy like a lot of people take these, and a lot of people with skillet, even cook because all these meals are prepared, right?
Everything's fully cooked.
Because I was a guy that never wanted to reheat food. Like I was not a microwave food. Unfortunately, like during my prep, sometimes I had to if I was traveling, right? But you know, I would skillet this stuff, so I just spray a little ham, which probably isn't the healthiest thing, right? But I'd mix it up, and then I think, oh, this is a real meal. And that's the ideal way to do it, other than I always say to people, even if you have meal prep, just try to like make it as fresh as possible, because nothing's going to be 100% like you cook it at home and it's hot and fresh and coming off, but this is the closest thing to it, right? I mean,
hands down, this is the closest thing.
The experience is everything with the food.
And in the last like 5 years or so, air fryers have like blown up in the meal prep scene. It's the best invention of all time, and we recommend people just throw it in the air fryer for a couple minutes, and it tastes like you're getting it from a restaurant. You know what I mean? That's ultimately the best experience. Skillet is probably the second best.
I just don't use it.
Yeah, Angie uses it for everything.
Yeah, and that's the new thing in like meal prep culture is people are making like mac and cheese and fried chicken sandwiches, and they're all like low calorie, high protein. That's all that matters. Low calorie, high protein. If it's like, it doesn't matter if it's a fried chicken sandwich.
You know what?
People love it.
Yoletta did she took one of the meals. It was just a chicken, vegetables, and brown rice. She actually posted a reel. She took it and she diced it all up and she turned it into this like quesadilla. So she took a meal and converted it into her own version of quesadilla.
Yeah, I take the a la carte, the meal prep chicken, and I actually dip it in egg whites, and then I dip it in crushed up corn flakes, which are actually super low calorie. And then I throw it in the air fryer, and it makes like a KFC fried chicken.
So
sandwich.
you're going to have to do this.
Why can't we do
this
this and send
Connolly
it out?
special? No, this Connolly special. So you're going to have the cornflakes separate little container, like one of those.
People pop in. Yeah, it's
you know, you have that whole thing. I mean, how deep will you get into custom meals, like eventually like signature meals?
Oh, I mean, one of the big things that's going to come in 2023, now that we control the supply chain, is customer choice, which is like people can click and be like, I want 10 chicken tiki masalas this week, and that's all they want, and we'll ship them just those 10 tiki masalas. Like right now we take preferences, like I don't like mushrooms, or I don't like salmon, or whatever it is, but having total customer choice is going to be massive for us.
That's a lot of work with the website and everything now too, right?
It is, but
Programming
it's like totally doable. So we've already got it on our roadmap. It should get released around mid-year in 2023, and then at that point it's going to be we'll grow significantly just by releasing that by itself.
See, but now I have the most serious question of the day. When is the Jay Cutler Bowl coming out?
Hey, you guys tell me what you wanted it. That we can do today. That we can actually do today. So
we can have one tomorrow?
Probably in a couple weeks. Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah.
What do you think?
It's my fault because we had a scheduled trip to go check out
The facility, yeah.
the facility
We just got
in Texas, right?
Just-
but we just got kind of slammed at the time we were on our crazy travel schedule. But I think I always have. I'm a creature of habit. I always eat kind of the same thing, and seems like a lot of people follow. So when I prep something, and that's the most comments I get, especially when Angie cooks, because she does the whole thing, and the music's on, and everyone wants to know, okay, how do you cook this? And it's so simple, but meals, they're like people's lives, right?
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Even if you have 2 or 3 a day, it's like that's all people kind of look forward to, and they're like, man, I could do that. I mean, someone like me that's eating 6 meals a day at my prime, or 7 meals. Obviously, the quantity is just astronomical, and that's where the a la carte stuff is. It's so important for like a Regan Grimes
or Brian Shaw.
Yeah, Brian Shaw is ridiculous. Like we talked about, the funny thing is he was in here and we talked. Yeah, his diet was similar. Like we ate the same calories pretty much, right? I mean,
when you were at your peak, it was right between 8,000 and 10,000 a day. That's what Jay was actually, which is a lot for
who have you shipped the most food to ever for an individual?
I think Brian Shaw.
Brian honestly is probably double the next.
How much do you think it costs you to feed Brian Shaw a year, food wise?
Over 60,000. Yeah.
Really, just in cost?
Well, dude, he gets like 5 boxes a week, and that shipping alone is probably $400 a week.
Yeah, and he's eating at least 5 to 6 pounds of meat a day. Which
it's 40 to 50 pounds a week,
and I love Brian like a brother. He's the nicest, tightest guy ever, but he likes like the most expensive meats. He wants like
30 pounds of bison.
I love the bison though.
Bison's
And I make
super lean.
I make burgers with the bison. To be honest, like I pick because it comes in the patties, and
if you're eating that much, bison has the lowest cholesterol. It's the healthiest meat you can eat. So someone like Brian, who's over 400 pounds,
the bison is the best ever. Like that's one thing. If you guys out there try, and this weekend too, Olympia 22, it's a first time people 40% off. So we're gonna keep running this because I don't know when we're gonna launch this, but we're gonna run it a little longer. Okay, I just decided.
Cutler Cast. So, you know what? We're doing a Cutler Cast special. It's 40% off. We're going to get the code made. By the time this launches, it's a done deal.
But Olympia 22, so you first-time people, but you have to order the bison.
But you know what? When I was in Montana, I ate with Dane and Rob. I actually got bison steak the first time in my life, and it was fucking amazing. It was the best steak I ever had. It was a bison ribeye. Can we get bison steak?
Yeah, we could. Yeah,
it's so good, man.
I mean, we'd have to test it and see if customers other than
but you have exotic. You have exotics. You have elk and what else? Like what are some of the exotic meats?
We've done elk, venison, bison. Obviously, a lot of exotic fish. We will.
What's the most common?
Most common fish.
Yeah, that you sell.
Salmon by far.
Yeah, I don't eat salmon. I'm not a salmon eater.
Salmon's definitely the whale when it comes to fish. But yeah, I mean, we just released pork for the first time, so we actually have pork in a lot of the meals. We have pulled pork on the menu. Bison.
I had the pork. the last meals I got.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, no, I had duck too.
Yeah,
I had some duck.
You know what it
meal.
is? You get a lot of times you just send you a bunch of different stuff, and because you'll message me and say, "Hey, I really like this one," you know.
Yeah, well, it's interesting, like things like duck, seeing the psychology of America, because we thought of duck, and a lot of our chefs are like Michelin star. They're these fucking incredible chefs. They think of duck as like you're going to a fancy restaurant type thing. And we released it, and most of America was like thought like Chinese food. You know what I mean? They were
Just
like
a good dark
Peking
meat.
duck. Yeah. It's just a good dark meat. So duck was actually not terribly popular, but bison was so popular we actually sold out of it for, I don't know, 4 or 5 weeks, which has never happened to us. We couldn't get more bison fast enough. So
How are we looking on bison in the future?
bison, it's in stock. Yeah.
Is it going to stay in stock, or are we going to sell out?
No,
We got a good.
We got multiple new ranches that we're sourcing from. Yeah.
Okay.
So we go all the way to the ranches, because bison is a win. This is what I love about bison. It's a win for multiple reasons. One, super lean, like you talked about. It's incredible macros, so people like Brian Shaw absolutely love it. Two, it actually increases the bison population in the U.S. So obviously when, white settlers came to the U.S., we like wiped out the bison population. Now it's surged back, because we're ranching the bison. And then 3, it's regenerative agriculture, which I didn't even know what that meant when people first started saying it to me. It means we're taking bison and putting them in areas in like Idaho, Montana, Oklahoma, etc., and they eat the little bit of grass that's there, and they turn like the Dust Bowl back into fucking grasslands. It's like the thing that we wanted to do for the last 250 years in the U.S. So yeah, people eating bison are actually like saving agriculture in the United States at the same, saving the topsoil, which is a major problem people don't talk about.
Is there any other new like meats or proteins that you're looking at launching?
I don't know. I think we can come up with
Or
some right
vegan.
now.
Like, tell me, if I was looking at a graph, like how many vegan, would you know how many vegan users you guys
They're
have?
about 9% of the overall user base.
Has it grown?
Oh yeah. It used to be like 3% when we first launched. So vegan's a lot more popular. It got helped a ton when we released vegan proteins, because when things like my buddy Ethan owns Beyond Meat, Impossible Burger, a lot of these we work with Daring Chicken, so they do like a vegan chicken. But when we were able to give people high protein, low calorie on vegan, suddenly the fitness community, which is largely what eats our food, or people who want to be fit, suddenly started, buying vegan in higher quantities. So that was the big complaint about vegan in the beginning, was it was all carbs, because that's what vegan was at that time.
When you guys go out to eat, you and your wife, and congratulations on the new baby.
Thank you.
Not too long ago, but
He's here this weekend.
oh yeah,
You get to meet him.
this is so it's a weekend extravaganza with the family. But
100%.
you have someone watching.
Yeah,
youngster, because I know you got a
we got the
crazy schedule.
grandparents here, so we got a hotel room with 2 rooms, so they
They join.
there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you guys go to dinner. Do you eat out? Number one, I
All the
know
time.
you're crazy. Okay, so
Let's me try. It's like R&D. For
that's
us.
what I'm.
We ate out last night,
That's
literally.
exactly
So that
what
means
I
I
was.
can expense a bunch every time I go out to eat.
Yeah, well, I
we're doing
fucking
research.
paid for it anyway. So.
Where'd you go to Cut or?
No, we went to. It was a super fancy.
You didn't know
steakhouse.
it.
It's in Venetian. I forget.
I thought.
Yeah,
I
it's
thought,
really good.
I thought Cut was there,
Rostini
so-
or something
okay.
like
I
that.
don't know.
But yeah.
So you go out to eat and you try these different portions, and like, does this give you ideas? Because you obviously have a research team, and like I know I've been to the the headquarters, and you guys have your boards, and you have your meeting room. I haven't been to like since you were doing the other floors. I mean, on the building, and I want to have to come check it out soon. But how much input? I mean, are you majority of input? Is your sister? Or is it like, do you have? I know you have the latest addition to the company for marketing, right? And
yeah, I push at like the top level. So I'll be like, hey, we want low calorie, high protein. Like I set like the general brand standards at a very high level. But we have Scott Liebfried is our head of culinary. He was Gordon Ramsay's sous chef on Hell's Kitchen for 10 years. He's like a multi-Michelin star chef, phenomenal guy that understands taking a recipe and taking it into like large scale cooking, which is the hard part. So he leads the culinary effort. His right-hand man is Chef Mario. who was running the UFC program.
He's been with you
guys
for
know.
quite some time, right?
Yeah,
he's been there
4.5 years now. Yeah, and I got to give a shout out to Chef Mario. I told him to start. We have like a studio kitchen in our headquarters, and I was like, bro, you want to be popular on social media? Come in, start like cooking on the weekends, and show people how to make incredible meal prep, and even doing basic things like
I want to have a cooking show, Greg. That's my goal.
Hey, I'll fucking sponsor it.
Yeah, like Angie, I would like to, because Angie's great, but I just need her to not to bust my chops, like, because I'm learning, right?
Yeah,
because I'm very.
That's what people love to watch.
I know,
Jay,
but she wants
Angie
to take.
I'm Jay Cutler.
It's hard.
Chicken and rice.
She's like, you don't know. You know, I can't have her say that because I'm supposed to know what I'm doing if I have a cooking show. So sorry. Go ahead. So go ahead.
It's gonna be a spoof show.
Who else you want to shout out? That
well, no, I was giving Mario a shout out because he started doing this and people started watching his cooking videos. In the last 3 weeks, he's gone from 6,000 followers to 160,000 followers on Instagram. He like blew up overnight. So he's gaining like 10,000 followers a week. It's crazy.
You get him verified yet, or
I'm already in progress on it. Yeah,
We can't get verified.
I emailed my Facebook team. I was like, we need Chef Mario verified. But yeah, no, if you wanted to do a cooking show with Angie, that would be the sickest thing ever. If you guys are making, like, you guys could just make healthy meal prep stuff that is like, really healthy cheat meals. That's what people care about.
They taste extra good, you know, because I think people's biggest fear is like, man, these meals are really bland. I mean, I always said, if it tastes good, it's probably not good. But you can actually, like, it's kind of made it different now, where I'm not just eating everything totally bland. And obviously dating a Latina girl, it's a little easier to flavor your food. And I learned, it's great. So it's like, it's always a learning. Always, I'm a little more relaxed now. That's the main thing. But we're at the Olympia weekend. Who's your favorite to win the Mr. Olympia this year?
Uh-oh.
You got to be careful now.
I feel like I have too many irons.
I mean,
why did you do this? I'm going to get nasty messages.
Okay, no, I'm not going to ask this.
I love all the Olympians equally.
I know, but I'm looking at you, okay? And you've learned a lot about fitness now, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you learned a lot about fighting. Raya Faber is a shareholder of Trifecta.
And one of my best friends now.
Yeah, so I know that's kind of how we connected for the first time.
Yep.
And I know you had the podcast. Were you guys doing the podcast together before?
Calicast.
Yeah, the Calicast. And
I'm
going to tell a story about this on
set
here.
the new studio up. So in the underground, in the offices at our headquarters, we actually took over another 3,500 square feet of space, and we have a studio gym and a podcast studio now. So we're actually about.
So it's coming back, or
we're literally relaunching it. Yeah. I think we already filmed the first episode.
Okay, so in 2018, I flew down there, and I sat down, and I went and met with Greg, and Uriah walks in, and I'm like, what the fuck's Uriah Faber doing in here? Like, we're just meeting. He's like, oh, we're going to film. I'm like, oh, cool. Like, you're going to be on it. But he never said this to me.
Yeah, he doesn't like to be on
it. Because he would have ran. He would have been like, no, I can't do that.
I would have done it because I don't do them. I had a really bad experience years ago when I was in the music industry in front of thousands of people. I had an anxiety attack. So I do not, anytime people ask me to do, some type of interview or whatever, no, I just don't do it. But you came in and you didn't even realize what you were doing. You're like, oh no, it's great. We got cameras from every angle. And I'm like sitting here going, this fucking guy has no idea. I'm like, okay.
It was a trap.
So I did it. You trapped me. So that was the first time I did one. And I have done none other until Jay was like, well, I want to do a podcast, but you have to do it. I'm like, I don't want to do it. But now
you're very good at this. That's why it's like baffling to people like me and Jay is you're an expert talker. You're like me. You're on the phone all day, and this is what you should be doing. So
I'm getting better. But that first time, you had no idea. I was like, and then I forgot there was a couple people sitting in there. And now while we're doing this, I'm like I'm having an anxiety attack quietly and nobody knows. And they're filming me, and I'm like, oh my God.
They're like social media live.
Oh, here's Matt and this. And then they're sending me reels and stuff, and I'm like, God, I look fucking stupid. I don't want to be on there. But
all right, Tariq, go back. Okay.
He wants to know.
No. How many people is Trifecta feeding in this? Quite a bit, right?
A lot.
Do we know the count, or
I don't know the count off the top of my head.
We have every division covered though.
Pretty much.
I mean, Curry's like the biggest name in the Open, probably.
So there's a couple things. There's a couple things with we have some people that are signed athletes. We have some people that we just do food swap outs with.
Okay.
There's some people that when they come into America, we feed them. So there's a lot of different situations, but we have probably 20 top people, elite people that we feed year round, week in and week out. A lot of them are here this weekend. We have some that are here that from overseas, like Andrew Jack. We've been feeding him. In the past, we've fed Rami. We feed Brandon Curry. He's here full time in America.
Yeah, he's been in Kuwait. So
but when he goes to Kuwait, but when he comes, he knows the week ahead of time, what do you need? And boom, it's waiting for him at his hotel, so he doesn't have to think about it. His wife doesn't have to think about it, and everything's there. So we pretty much have elite people in every division. Somebody that's battling for the title, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, up to 5 people in every division.
All right, so I'm going to ask you a better question. The experience for you for being around this fitness culture. I mean, what have you taken? Like, you're a fan of many sports. Like, what would you say highlights like the fitness business? Like, would you say like the personalities, or do you notice like the effort, like the effort that goes in? I mean, what you eat is really how your body transforms in the end. I mean, you can talk about the training, the sleep patterns, and whatever else, but the food is like the number one thing, right?
100%. And probably the most meaningful thing, whether it's, candidly, that video we're about to put out talks about it quite a bit. The mindset that goes into it is what's going to impact what you're eating, how you're training, etc. And there's a direct correlation to that and entrepreneurship, which is, my big passion. I like to think I'm in reasonably good shape. Obviously I'm nowhere.
How many days a week do you work out?
Every day. Yeah. I have a gym in my house and I work out.
And how'd you learn?
Jake Cutler videos.
Yeah. I mean, from the internet, like most people. Yeah. I went through, I did, kind of standard bodybuilding stuff, a little bit of powerlifting stuff. I did a few years of CrossFit when CrossFit first came out. But yeah, I mean, I've got.
What's your biggest obstacle being a CEO and busy and a father and a husband?
I mean, the amount of hours that go into all of it. I mean, you know.
Like, what time you wake up in the morning?
I'm like a night owl, so I usually wake up, 6:30, 7.
And you go to bed at what time?
Midnight to 2 a.m. Yeah. So I believe in the Arnold mindset of sleep faster.
Yeah.
But, if I can get 6 hours, that's usually pretty good for me.
Your phone starts going off in the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I
sleep 5.
I work oftentimes like 7 days a week, you know what I mean? But I still find time to make trips with the family. I got the family here with me as well. That's something we really try and do, is whether I'm traveling for work or on vacation, we try and like keep our family together.
Well, it's kind of funny because was his sister or was his wife at the Olympia one year?
Last year, his sister was there.
Okay,
she gave out all the.
I remember it was because you weren't in attendance. That time.
So the first year, 2019, Greg came.
Okay,
yeah.
In 2020. We were not allowed to bring any employees from California. So that's when I said, hey, I need you to hand out. And I set up whoever was handing the awards out. Last year, Liz was able to come because Greg couldn't.
Yeah.
So
so my son was still like a little baby. So, it's, I think the mindset component of fitness has been the thing that's been most impactful for me, because people think entrepreneurship is easy. You guys know this shit is fucking hard.
You have structure.
I'm working hours and hours and hours through just relentless, pursuit of building the business, no matter what obstacles are put in front of us. And, having a routine, training on a regular basis. Like, a lot of people start thinking, oh, well, I got all this work and stress I got to do, and they like fuck off their workout. But that ends up compounding it, because then you just feel worse about yourself. So I try and like maintain across all areas of life so I can be, performing at an optimal level. One of the biggest quotes I loved recently, there's a podcast I love called the All In Podcast. They're all 4 business guys. They're, I think each of them are worth $250 million to $1 billion. One of them's one of the PayPal mafia guys, Jason Sachs, and he's talking about Elon Musk. And when they sold PayPal, he was at the same level as Elon. And he's like, Elon didn't quit. He just kept leveling up for 20 more years after that, just doubling down. And now look at him. He's a level 99 mage. Like, the dude is just an unbelievable superhuman, running 5 or 6 different businesses. And I candidly want to have that type of massive impact on humankind. Like, imagine a fucking America that all look like Jay Cutler. People would be terrified of us. it would be the most ridiculous thing ever. Oh, he's like G.I. Joe over here, bro. It would be amazing. But I mean, that's really the dream and the mission behind the brand is, you know, if Elon can transition oil and cars at the same time, I certainly can get everybody a 6-pack. Like, it's absolutely doable in our lifetime for sure.
I have conversations with people a lot about, you know, when you work for yourself, they're going, oh, you have all this free time and you can make your own schedule, but it's like there's perks to it, but there's no such thing as a day off. I struggle with this. I know I do. I don't know how to detach, and I need to learn how. I don't. Even when I have a free day, I do the same stuff every day. I don't change. It's the same work stuff. It's the same communication, the same everything. So there's no such thing as a day off. I don't, when's the last time, just think about, when's the last time you took a day off where you did no work?
You know, listen, I'm in a relationship. It's a little different, I think. You know, if you have a better, like, I'm kind of forced to at this point.
But you still do work every day.
No, you know, but I have hands. You know, I definitely have hands, and my mind is always going. That's the thing. But you do need a break from things. I mean, it's still like you'll take your vacations or whatever else. We can 100%. Talk about work.
And you go. I get all jealous. I'm like, where are you? I'm in Bora Bora, chilling, working from my office. Here's my view.
but I'll send some emails before everybody's awake early in the morning, and then it's like, boom, I can go to the gym with my wife.
Business,
you can't fully step away, or I'll my wife will go to the bathroom at dinner, and I'm like checking the metrics on my phone real quick. So yeah, you can't fully step away, but I still try and like work hard, play hard as much as I possibly can. Absolutely.
Where do you see Trifecta a year from now, 5 years from now, and 10 years from now?
Year from now, I think we're going to have choice. We're going to be, I'm hoping we can double in size over the next year or so, which would be massive. 5 years from now, I'd like to see us in the multi-billions, us be a huge business at that point, us be pushing into healthcare. So we've done a lot of studies on, like NIH, National Institute of Health studies with Stanford, Harvard, feeding people with type 2 diabetes. I'd like to get to a point where, they did the big conference out in Washington where they're trying to, release $90 billion to push food into healthcare. And we'd love to be at the forefront of that conversation when it happens. I mean, now that I got a kid, I'd love to get into schools. Like, you look at the food in schools. When I went to high school,
it was garbage.
In the 90s, we had a Pizza Hut, a Taco Bell, and an Arby's in the fucking school. Like, literally, I used to eat those little Arby's roast beef sandwiches every day. It was terrible.
I would love to. I mean, that's something, that one thing, like, I always talk about changes, and, I preach the food to people, and I know exactly, what is good and what's bad, and man, most society eats a lot of bad food.
I mean, it's at a level, this is the largest public health crisis of all time. We're now spending about 1.7 trillion with a T a year on this problem. It's massive. Medicare alone spends almost $500 billion on type 2 diabetes itself. We could rebuild every school in America. We could do all kinds. We could fund the military twice over. I mean, it's crazy amounts of money that this is a solvable problem. We just need to teach people to eat healthy, and we need to make eating healthy the easiest option available on the internet.
I don't know how these schools haven't caught on to this yet. I think back when I was young, I was a very troubled kid, very troubled. And I think back to my diet. I couldn't sit still in class. Mm-hmm. And the doctors would say, oh, he's got attention deficit, or he has this. We need to give him Ritalin or Dexedrine or whatever it was. But as I got older and I started learning about food, I realized what it was. I woke up, I ate 2 bowls of cereal. Mm-hmm. What's that? Sugar, carbs, fat, with whatever milk I would use. I'd eat a Pop-Tart on the way to school. At lunch, I'd have a chocolate milk. I'd have a bag of chips and a piece of pizza. And then I'd come home and I'd eat more cereal or some other garbage. And I think back to it and I'm going, I was probably consuming 200 grams of sugar a day. And you wonder why someone can't sit still or they can't concentrate. So instead, the doctors say, give them this medication instead of learning, maybe if we just clean their food up, they wouldn't need this.
Yep.
So there's probably a lot of people being diagnosed for stuff they don't have because they're eating shit. And people don't know this. So if there's a way to get Trifecta into school systems saying, instead of giving this garbage, why don't you give someone a healthy meal? And you can make it taste good. 100%. It doesn't have to be like...
We'll do healthy mac and cheese and stuff like that kids want. Healthy pizza even.
You can, yeah.
But yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And it's a lot of people... have bitched about it for decades. You know, there's all these documentaries and all this type of stuff, and we're the direct action company. You know, I want to be like Elon Musk, where I'm like, okay, let's use capitalism to directly solve the problem and go out and change people's minds and push the food into schools and hospitals and all of that. Because being married to a doctor, everybody thinks like doctors want to write prescriptions for shit. They don't. They love to be able to prescribe food, but they can't. It's not something that they're able to write a prescription for. So we want to get to the point where we've got enough studies that physicians can actually prescribe. There's a new thing happening in medicine called lifestyle medicine, which is a whole specialty now, and they're going to start being able to prescribe food to people for an outpatient nutrition program like Trifecta. So your physician says, hey, I want you to eat keto or paleo or vegan or whatever it is, you know, at least 2 meals a day for the next 3 months to help with your type 2 diabetes so you can lose that weight. And that cost is covered by, at least partially covered by their health insurance, as opposed to more insulin or Ritalin or, you know, whatever the fuck else it is. So yeah, no, I could go off on that. We don't have enough podcast time, but yes, that's like the dumbest problem we're facing in the United States right now. And it costs us 20% of all of our tax dollars. 20%. It's huge. It's twice the size of the military.
Do you remember that movie, that documentary, Super Size Me? Yeah. So in that documentary where they had the kids, where they took all the troubled kids, I went to high school there, and it was actually where I'm from, where they took these kids that were getting expelled and kicked out of school, D's, F's, and they switched it to where the school had all the meals were prepared, not some crap that's just put together by whatever food lobby. They got rid of all soda, all milk, all orange juice, and all they had in there was water. And every kid that went there within a short period of time went from D's, F's expelled to A's and B's, just showing that the brain can't have all this shit. And we wonder why we're not maybe advanced in school or different subjects. Our kids are just completely full of shit from the food that they get. And they're bombarded marketing-wise, whether it's McDonald's or Pizza Hut or whatever.
100%.
They don't, and even in school, think back to when we went to school, were you really taught about nutrition? You had health class.
Yeah, in high school, I had a nutrition class.
I had it, but it was only like 2 weeks.
But listen, nutrition's advanced so much.
100%. It's totally different than when we were in school. People didn't really know in the 80s and 90s what was going on, and that's when fast food actually hit. You know, it was a huge transition in the 80s and 90s, and we're now coming to the other side of it. But that's candidly why we went with a brand like Trifecta instead of, you know, fresh this or, you know, fit that or whatever it is, because we wanted the brand to be cool. That's what we need the Jay Cutlers of the world for, is to make the brand cool for the kids. Because, yeah, my high school, the Mountain Dew Humvees would show up with, like, rap knocking, and they're just, like, chucking full-calorie Mountain Dews out to kids, and, you know, we all lost our minds. And that was just the great marketing, and we want to completely flip that on its head and actually do it in a totally different way. So
I think people consume more calories from drinks than they do actually food.
I mean, sodas are the worst, you know.
Yeah. You drink 3 sodas a day, and what is there? And you'll look at the back and go, oh, this can's only 15 grams of sugar, and it's like, no, read the top. There's 4 servings. So it's 60. They just don't write 60. They're tricking you.
Yeah.
And then 100%. You drink 3 of them, you're like, dude, that's a quarter pound of sugar.
Or kids are drinking the Gatorades, and it's like 64 grams of sugar in one of those, like,
per serving, but then there's 4 servings or some shit like that.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. So yeah, I mean, that's really the mission behind the business, is to, you know, to transform America. We owe it to this generation. You know, we are the breadwinners now. You know what I mean? Our parents are technically the elderly people at this point, and we need to have the impact ourselves. So yeah, that's why I get so hyped about Trifecta and work so fucking hard on it, because we're actually transforming people's lives. Like, if you guys don't see the stories as much as I do of, like, people writing us being like, oh my God, I'm off my diabetes medication. They send us their lab results. They're like, look at my A1C hemoglobin come down. Like, it's transforming their lives.
It makes the mission like that much better.
It's tangible. It's a real thing. Like, I see their before and afters, thousands of them. And people like someone like a Trey that I was talking about earlier, you know, he's a 61-year-old guy from Maryland But Sage Northcutt, the UFC fighter who's 24, is who inspired him to get into fitness. You know what I mean?
He looks incredible, that kid. Yeah.
He looks incredible, but you don't know who you're inspiring. You could be inspiring an 18-year-old or an 80-year-old. You got millions of followers, and you know it. Like people, I think about like inspiration as like almost like something like motivation. Like it's not that important. Like discipline is what really matters. But you guys really do change people's lives. They really make a different choice because of something that you said to them, and that's massive. You know, it's
so. And this is something that I educate companies on. Bodybuilders do not get the credit they deserve for how influential they are.
Totally
They're
agree.
more influential than any other sport out there. And the reason for it is, if you go to LeBron James, you go to see him because you want to get entertained. If you go to UFC fighters, you want to see them knock somebody out. Somebody might be influenced by Jay, and they don't know they're influenced by Jay, because Jay or any other person in this space, he's influencing the influencers in your market. He's influencing every trainer that's in that town. So, for example, if you know nothing about bodybuilding and you said, hey, I want to get in shape, what are you going to do? Hey, I drive by this gym every day. You go to this gym and you go in there, hey, who's your best trainer? Oh, so-and-so he's a bodybuilder. So you hire this guy. And this guy's now telling you, hey, you got to train this way, you got to eat this way, you got to use these supplements.
And who does that guy
And he's
follow?
getting influenced by him.
100%.
So, and now
it makes a massive web. And we learned that when we partnered with NASM, ISSA, CrossFit, etc. Even like I love CrossFit, but even the CrossFitters look at the bodybuilders and they're like, oh man, they got their diet super on lock. Like they're massive. They're doing this, you know, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, the impact ends up like spider webbing out into all these different areas.
You can't track it, because now what happens is you start getting in shape. And then your wife's like, oh man, you're looking good. What supplements are you getting? Oh, well, my trainers had me get this. Now she's ordering it. Now she gets in shape, and now she's influencing 4 or 5 people she works with, and it's all coming from this person. Now, even on a larger scale where people don't necessarily notice it, what happens when a football player scores a touchdown? What does he do? Where do you think this comes from? The bodybuilding poses. People might not look at and think of it. It comes all the way back from someone like a Schwarzenegger. And they don't realize how influential the bodybuilders are. And I'm going to use LeBron James. You'll see him. He'll dunk on somebody and so be hanging on. The first thing he does is he raises his bicep. It's a bodybuilding pose. These top guys are influenced by people like Jay and other people in our industry, but the bodybuilders don't get credit because it's not always a direct correlation. A lot of times you're influencing 5 and 6 steps down, and you have no idea that it's getting influence from someone like him at the top level.
Yeah, and the reality is I love watching LeBron and the NBA and the NFL and all of that, but I'm just a normal guy. What am I going to go do? I'm going to go lift weights in the gym. Exactly. I'm not going to go like be dunking on people or putting on a helmet and playing football. Like lifting is what almost everybody is doing, is some level of weight training. So that's why it ends up being so overly, you know, influential and impactful in the U.S. So
and also, like you said, if you're not going to go say, hey, I need to go do LeBron's workout because I want to play basketball at the YMCA and get better, or I'm not going to go tackle somebody. But if you start training and you start feeling better, it changes your life. It changes your health. It can change your marriage. It can change your work. Even companies, I'm assuming, they want their employees to work out. Why? Because they're more effective. So again,
and it lowers their healthcare costs.
Exactly. These bodybuilders do not get the credit. They're at the forefront many times. Like we were having our conversation last night when you and your wife were speaking. And a lot of times, even a physician could sit down with a bodybuilder that's been around a long time, and they have certain knowledge because they've done stuff on themselves that the average Joe public doesn't know this. So I think the bodybuilders never get credit, and I'm doing my best at the forefront to get them out there saying, hey, you might not see that direct sale, but trust me, that overspill is coming, and it's coming for a long time. And when you have a massive roster of these bodybuilders, the wave keeps going and going and going, and you can't always track it, but it's there.
100%. Yeah, it's you guys are the tip of the spear across. You know, that's why people like Shaq are showing up at the Olympia.
Of course.
I don't know if he'll be here this year.
I think he is.
Yeah,
I mean, think about it. He went and did a whole posing routine the other day.
Yeah.
Where's that from?
Shaq's pretty jacked. I don't know how old Shaq is at this point, but
he's right around. He's got to be in his
I think
I'd be in his 50s.
I think he's
No, he's
low.
got to be my age, I think.
No, I think he's early 50s.
I think he's in his
Yeah,
50s. I think. I mean, well, he was a rookie in what, 92, so he'd have been 21. He played 3 years, so do the math. So he's probably a little older.
Yeah, it's a big weekend. I mean, we have everyone's kind of, we have a lot of people showing up at the booth. I mean, like you weren't there last year, you said, right?
No,
not in Florida.
Last 2
Okay,
years.
My
so
son
so
had
it'd be
just been
good to
born,
kind of
yeah.
witness and see that, you know, obviously the you know, how Trifecta stands, he being the title sponsor, and you know, it's the place to be. So I appreciate you coming out, man.
Yeah.
And one other thing I want to say too, there's one thing different that Trifecta has compared to a lot of these other companies out there is it's the healthcare mission. It's the health mission. I know there's a ton of brands out there where people can go spend their money. And there's a lot of people that just want to feed people just because they want to feed people. But they're not worried about where's the food coming from. Is it good quality? Is it healthy? It's not the Trifecta. Obviously, Trifecta wants to make money, but it's not there just to make money. It's there to actually impact and change. And that means a lot to me.
Yeah, the money is there to power the engine. You know what I mean? It just allows us to scale and help, you know, save more people's lives, really. Because at this point, I mean, literally, people that lose that amount of weight, we're saving their life. You know, that's a crazy thing to think about, but you know, it's probably something Jay never
I've heard
thought.
I heard it a million times. Like, you saved me, and that, you know, it's everything. I mean, people, just obese people, and like you mentioned, the diabetic thing, and you know, type 2 diabetic, and I came off of medication. I was able to reverse, you know, with a nutrition program that really, you know, kept that away. And a lot of it's genetic, right? I mean, you have to deal with genetics too. People don't have always the best genetics, so they're running
Sometimes
into those
meds are needed.
obstacles. Yeah.
Yeah.
But, you know, this is the place where, you know, I'm on a platform or visible for people to see me, and, you know, where I can communicate with people. I mean, that's what I look forward to the most.
Yeah. No, I mean, you're obviously Matt and I talk about it a lot. You're like the best ambassador for the sport that we could have ever hoped for. So
Jay's right at the top of Mount Rushmore.
yeah.
And again, like I said, Jay influences the influencers who influence other influencers.
Yep.
But he doesn't get credit for it.
Yeah.
But I see it.
Yeah, no, we see it too. We watch the metrics, so.
Yeah.
All right, well, appreciate you guys having me out. I know we're probably over time at this point, so.
We're here Olympia weekend. We made sure to make time to get Greg in here.
Yeah.
Well, we
And
appreciate
as soon as
it,
we
man.
hang up, we're going.
We'll get a pose down at the booth this weekend. Thank you so
Uh-oh.
much.
Do you know how to do the quad stomp?
Yeah, I do. It doesn't look the same as Jay, but
Thanks for coming on, Greg.
thanks, guys.